I've always been a skeptic. Ghosts, aliens, monsters, they were all just stories to me. But after what I experienced in the Southwest, my perspective on the unknown has been forever altered. I was on a road trip with my best friend, Jake. We had decided to take a detour through the Navajo reservation in Arizona, mainly because of the scenic beauty and the rich history of the area. We had heard tales of skinwalkers, but we laughed them off. They were just myths, right? Our first day on the reservation was uneventful. Interacted with some of the locals. We visited a few local spots and set up camp near a canyon. As night fell, we sat around our campfire, sharing stories and enjoying the serenity of the desert. Around midnight, Jake decided to turn in. I stayed up, mesmerized by the stars. The Milky Way stretched across the sky, and I felt a profound sense of peace. That is, until I heard it. A low, guttural growl echoed through the canyon. I froze, thinking it might be a coyote or a mountain lion. But then I heard a voice. It was distorted, as if someone was speaking through a broken radio. But it was unmistakably Jake's voice. "Come here," it beckoned. Confused, I turned to our tent. Jake was sound asleep. The voice called out again, this time from the opposite direction. I grabbed a flashlight and shone it towards the source. What I saw will haunt me forever. Standing on a ridge was a figure. It looked like a man, but its limbs were elongated, and its eyes glowed a sickly yellow. It wore tattered clothing, and its skin was a mottled gray. But the most disturbing part was its face. It was Jake's face. I stumbled back, my heart racing. The creature mimicked Jake's voice again. "Come here." It took a step towards me, its movements jerky and unnatural. I bolted to the tent, shaking Jake awake. "We need to go." "Now!" I hissed. He looked at me, confused, but the urgency in my voice spurred him into action. We packed up as quickly as we could, the creature's voice echoing around us, mimicking our voices, our laughter, our conversations from earlier. As we sped away in our car, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The creature stood in the middle of the road, watching us, its yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. We didn't stop driving until we reached the nearest town. We checked into a motel, and I spent the night researching skinwalkers. The legend said they were witches who could take the form of animals or people, using their voices to lure victims. I don't know what we encountered that night, but I do know one thing. The stories are real. The Southwest is beautiful, but it holds secrets that are beyond comprehension. And I'll never set foot on the Navajo reservation again. To all of you reading this, please, be careful when you venture into unknown territories. Some legends are rooted in truth, and some nightmares are very, very real. I've been a truck driver for a few months. I've seen some weird things. When I first took this job to be an over-the-road trucker, I thought it would be really exciting. I thought I'd get to travel the country and see the sights and come home with stories to tell my friends and family. I was right. This job is exciting, but I soon found that I'm better off not sharing these stories with anyone close to me. Not because I don't trust them, but because I'm worried they wouldn't believe me. Let me back up. My name is Brittany. I'm 22 years old, and I've been driving with a rather large company for a few months now that I won't name due to obvious reasons. Ever since my training ended and I got my own truck to start solo, I've seen some pretty weird shit. When you're driving the loneliest road in America, yes, that's its real name, in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, things can start to get to you. I suppose it was only a matter of time before I saw something out in the desert at nearly midnight. I still had another hour to the nearest truck stop, and blasting the freezing cold air against my face was all I could do to keep myself from dozing off at the wheel. Irresponsible, I know, but until you work this job, you don't understand how much lax comes with it. I was driving this highway in the desert, in the pitch blackness of a cold summer night, when suddenly something runs out in the road in front of me. Before I can even react, it's gone across the other side into the bushes. I barely got a good look at it, but I could have sworn it looked like a large, white dog, faster than any dog I've ever seen. Tried to just ignore it and keep driving. I see animals crossing the road at night all the time. It didn't seem like anything to get worked up about. Not even a minute later, I feel my truck lurch to the left and into the other lane. I quickly try to swerve and correct it, and easily step on the brakes so I don't wreck. It can be easy to jackknife and 80,000-pound metal death machine. I slow it down and regain control. I look for the nearest pullover spot so I can see what the hell just hit my rig and see if there's any damage. Once I find a spot and turn off, hit my brakes and hop out, I walk around to the other side and see a large dent in the side of my trailer. What the fuck? I say to myself as I walk over to inspect the side of the trailer. It's a huge dent, at least 5 feet wide and tall. No real shape to it, just a general dent. I can't imagine what could have hit me. My first thought was maybe a boulder, rolled down from the side of the hill and smashed into me. But I didn't think I was driving next to any hills or mountains. As far as I knew, it was flat desert. I hear the sound of dirt crunching under footfall behind me, and I turn around. My breath catches in my throat and my stomach drops as I see something standing not 50 feet away from me. It's large, menacing, and white. I can't even find the words to describe what this thing looked like. It looked like a very large dog, and that's a stretch. It stood on 2 short, stout legs with long forearms reaching down past its knees. Its shoulders were broad and heaving, as if it had just ran a marathon. Its head was mostly shaped like a wolf, with a large snout filled with razor-sharp teeth bared in a snarl, saliva dripping from its maw. Its jet-black eyes bore right through me, filled with hatred and hunger. I couldn't move, I was frozen in place. This creature stood between me and my only salvation, my truck. We stared at one another for a moment until I broke the silence. "You are one ugly motherfucker," I said. It snarled at me then, very unexpectedly. It turned and walked away slowly, using all 4 of its limbs, receding into the bushes and into the night. I stood there for what felt like several minutes, wondering if it would jump out and feed on my flesh at any moment. It never came back. I ran around the front of my truck and jumped inside, locking the door quickly and flooring it. As fast as you can floor an 18-wheeler, which is not at all. Soon I was back on the highway and barreling down it as if my life depended on it. For a while it felt like it did. Within a half hour I found myself at the truck stop and shut down for the night. Sleep was difficult that night. I was certain every noise I heard was that damn creature returning. Luckily, the night went on without another incident. I have more stories to tell, but this is getting long, so I think I'll stop here. Remember, guys, be careful out there on the road. You never know what else is out there with you. So this was a Saturday night around 9 to 10 p.m., and I had gone to see my friend who lived on the opposite side of my city. It's a train ride away, and I was planning to visit for a few hours. So I got there for about 5 p.m., and at first, we was just chilling, doing normal teenager shit, and eventually, we went out to smoke some weed and just relax. So for the last few hours, we were just smoking and talking in the park, and soon it fell dark. But we remained in the park and smoked one last left. One of my friends were talking about horror sightings, which is a bit cliche, but it was fitting at the time. Skinwalkers are the scariest in my opinion, my friend said. "What's a skinwalker?" I asked. They just stared at me blankly and laughed, which I found odd, but I shrugged it off. It began to get darker and I had to go, so I said goodbye to my friends and started walking. Now, to describe what the road looked like which I was walking down was long, eerie, and had factories on one side and a canal on the other with a bike path. So I was walking down it and started to hear twigs snapping on the canal, and I just thought it was the animal at first, but when it started getting a rhythm, I realized it was something else. So I sped up and suddenly started hearing noises and cries for help. "Help! Please, it hurts," it howled. Something in me just decided to check it out, and as I started to walk to it, the screams became much more cursed and horrific. It got to the point where I covered my ears so much that it stung. As I peek over the bridge into the canal, I saw a huge, lanky, dark, and long-armed figure. As soon as I saw it, I ran for my life and went straight to my train, and luckily came early. Just a reminder to believe in such things as they are true, as I've experienced such horror. Safe to say I never slept for another month. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos like these. We're also trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of this year, so your support would mean the world to me. So continue supporting, and until we meet again.